Greetings. Welcome to week 4 of Scripture 210, reading Scripture theologically. Your head by this time is probably swimming, and yet it's a great swim. So many things to think about. The ideas that you've either been introduced or reintroduced to have been good and encouraging, and I hope that you're getting into it. Let's have a quick recap of the week just so that you kind of know where we're going. We'll do some feedback on the papers. I'll talk about picking the term paper topic, which is due this week. We'll walk through the week 4 module and the assignments, some additional resources for medieval biblical interpretation, but also for Lectio Divina. I am going to include a workshop that I've done with some results and success in parishes around the country and diocese too. And so just open source, let you have it and use it and be blessed by it. It's not, it's way too much information, but if you ever have to teach on this, this will be maybe a good, at least a good place to start. Let's jump in. All right, all the papers will be returned today. Most of them have been graded already. Look on the paper itself, the artifact that you submitted, and you'll see lots of comments, and not simply the grading summary. That's more of a big picture kind of thing. Overall, great work, and I do want to let you know that there is a biblical, a Catholic question that I'm going to ask you. Which is more important, the content of your paper or the paper format? Now, the Protestants will look for a single answer, but if you're a Catholic for any period of time, you know the beauty of our faith is that it is both and not either or. So content and format is important. If you look at all the rubrics, and you'll see the one on the paper coming up, they do depend on format as well. And especially as you get into advanced classes at CDU, especially in the graduate school, very important. So we'll just talking about proofing strategies. Whatever you do, don't submit your paper at the end of the day when you've just finished it. Give it a night's sleep, and you'll find all kinds of things that you thought, who put that in there? Well, you did, and you were too bleary-eyed to catch it. So do yourself a favor. This is what spouses were born for, that and filling the earth with children. But seriously, if you have someone else who can read it, sometimes they catch a meaning or something that's just off. And then don't forget the formatting issues. So as far as content, we're going to learn Lectio Divina, certainly a growing phenomenon, but given full bloom in this period, and other different activities from the scholastics. We'll look at monastic, scholastic theology, and see its imprint and influence on the university system that we know in the Western world. We'll look at St. Bernard and St. Thomas Aquinas as exemplars of this. And then there is a summary of the medieval approach, a wonderful table that can give you a good shorthand of what's going on during this period of time. Important period of time in terms of development of our faith. All right. The email topic, it's due by the end of the week. Make sure you have a bound, you have a binding, a limit on your topic. 5 to 7 pages goes real fast. Okay, find the right reference works. Make sure it's a pericope or something that is not, I'm going to look at the first 5 chapters of Romans, or I'm going to look at Isaiah, or something like that. But make sure you've got a topic that is well structured in that respect. Don't forget a good thesis statement. This is what is significant here, and then this is what we're going to look at. We're going to look at this period and that period and show a development of the literal sense. Maybe the literal sense takes over where it had previously been figurative only, or maybe it goes the opposite direction. And write good what I call C paragraphs. This is Professor Bauer, the English teacher, talking now. Statement, explanation, and example. In other words, this was the kind of interpretation on verse 6. And in other words, you see the figurative elements here when Moses stands for Christ, and the Red Sea stands for baptism, those sorts of things. And then examples, okay? Explanation and examples. Good C paragraphs work. Other logistics, Times New Roman 12 point or similar, double space, 5 to 7 pages. Again, please don't write more than that. I don't want to penalize you, but I don't want to encourage you either, okay? So keep that in mind. All right, here's the rubric. Organization, 10 points. Style mechanics, 10 points. Correctness and logic, 40, and completeness. You got a clear thesis statement, cogent argument, doesn't stray off topic, demonstrate the student can apply the principles learned in the course so far. Remember, this is due in week 7, in order to theologically, sorry about the typo there, interpret scripture. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right, jumping in, here's some resources for digging deeper. If you really like the history of interpretation on a particular passage. Think back to when we started with Origin and then the senses of Scripture. Guy by the name of Robert Louis Wilkin. He teaches church history at the University of Virginia, writes for First Things, just a wonderful Christian man, has written a series called The Church's Bible. And it's a particular book, but then the history of interpretation. So I've got a screen grab of Isaiah, and you start out with all the Gospels on Isaiah, as you can see in the index notes there. But then Cyril, Eusebius, Augustine, and so on, all the way through the medieval period. So it would have Aquinas and Bernard and other thoughts on it. He has other volumes on popular biblical books, 1 Corinthians, Romans, Gospel of John, the Song of Songs in the Hebrew Bible, Book of Genesis. So you dig into this, and so we're looking at, for example, Isaiah 53 verse 5, and here's the Apostolic Constitutions, Theodoratus, Cyrus, Irenaeus, Augustine, and you don't have to buy a separate commentary from all these different sources, because most of the time you're not learning everything Irenaeus wrote, but you're learning all the patristic commentary on Isaiah or on Romans or something like that. I love this series, and a couple of other books structured like it, but no one has the sense to pick out the real nuggets from here like Wilkin does. Okay. For digging deeper in terms of medieval biblical interpretation, there's one that just came out from Ian Levy, Baker Academic Press, introducing medieval biblical interpretation. This stuff all is a little bit too over your head. Then I would recommend Levy's book. Just came out last year. And then a 4-volume series. There's one by Henning Graf von Revenloh, und German, ja, a 4-volume series. It's very detailed. In fact, it's published by the Society of Biblical Literature. It's who wrote what when, and it can really, if you have problems sleeping at night, that might help you. But something that moves a little quicker, hitting the highlights along the way, is a history of biblical interpretation, which I recommend, Hauser and Watson, by Erdmans. So a bit of a warning: Catholic Church histories exist, but I have not found a really good, probably be a multi-volume set on the history of Catholic interpretation that's dispassionate and accurate and whatnot. If you know one, I'd love to know it, but I haven't found that yet. So keep that in mind. Okay, the next sets of slides I'm going to include is a workshop that I have done for 7 or 8 years on Lectio Divina, and if the beginning study in the homework was, wet your whistle, so to speak, spiritually, here's some good stuff about it. Okay, I don't have time to do all of this, so I'm just going to summarize, but I think you'll like it. Um, it's several workshops, but this is the first one. What pray without ceasing means, how to do it. It's very practical in that respect. We actually do a Lectio on a text. But here's Athanasius talking about given to spiritual reading, and here is First Thessalonians, of course, says pray without ceasing. In the liturgy, in the divine office, in the catechism, we talk about this a lot. Um, we see it as early as the 4th and 5th century patristics. The soul, Jerome said, fed each day with Lectio, and Ambrose and Augustine and Hilary. So all these great things about it. About 300 AD, but it flourishes in the medieval period as well. Great to do as in relationship to the church, in relationship with groups. The monastic model starts with holy reading, with meditatio, meditating on the scripture, with oratio, and finally contemplatio, contemplation. And there's no perfect way to do this, but there are some things that the ancients and even the moderns have found out to be helpful. And here's some information on Lectio and Meditatio. Here's Chrysostom about the scripture must be pressed between the fingers. So your finger is the same with the scripture. The more familiar they become, the more they reveal their hidden riches and yield their hidden treasures and yield their indescribable riches. That's why they call the saint the silver-tongued one, a preacher from the East, but definitely is true. The more you read, the more you want to read. Oratio in terms of prayer, contemplatio, how to review, how to think about what you're going to do. But there are other structures of this as well. There's incarnatio, which has been added. How do I act upon what I've read today? It was not part of the classical formulation, but to read, reflect, respond, rest, and now react. I take the word, I chew the word, I digest the word, I become the word. There's an incarnation of ourselves, a divinization of our lives as the word is incarnate by Christ and his Spirit inside of us each day. Good stuff there. Tim Gray has written a book. Dr. Tim Gray, one of the founders of the Augustine Institute, a good friend, has written a book called Praying Scripture for a Change, and he has these parts: Lectio, Meditatio, Oratio, Contemplatio, and finally Incarnatio. And so this is a sense of what's involved. So praying the Psalms with Lectio Divina, and now we're going to take Psalm 42 and say, here's an example. I know we're going fast, but here we go. Here's the text. And then the monastic scholastic model. Sorry about this is all in PowerPoint, so you can adjust it, etc. Here's the word cloud. Here are the words. What did you hear? What did you learn? Whatever in this first part. But that's kind of a sense of what a workshop can do. These are 4 great books. There are a million of them out there, but I think these are phenomenal. I mentioned Dr. Tim Gray. Mario Magrazzi is fantastic. Basil Pennington is a classic. And Thelma Hall has all these different texts, examples. Another good place to find, that's the other workshop. Here's some of the things that are on that, some of the scriptures that are used there. If you go to the United Bible Society website, I know several priests who work writing Lectio Divinas that are posted up there for the UBS. So really cool things there, and you can find all that good stuff. There's a broader sense of Lectio Divina and things to think about it. Here's Lectio in a community setting. Anyway, sorry to run through that so quickly, but hopefully someday you'll have to teach, or you'll get to teach or lead a small group through Lectio. It's a wonderful experience, more for you even than for your listeners. And I hope these slides can at least get you started, at least as a resource. God bless you. Have a great week number 4. Bye-bye now.